All right, Len, welcome. How are you today?
Hanging in there.
I know it's not your home, but the background, it looks like a really cool Zen
Very
Japanese
lovely.
garden. Well, you have good taste. You have good
Right,
taste.
right.
Um, well, welcome, and appreciate you making time for us. This is our third installment. It feels like we just started this, but it's three installments in of ask a lawyer, ask an attorney. Um, and so appreciate you making time for us. I will say I'm still in baseball mode, which is why I have my Cubs hat on. So appreciate you dressing up a little bit here. But I know we have
I'm tolerating it. I'm wearing shorts below this.
yeah, I think that's like for anyone in the corporate world, that's pretty much what everyone does.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
sweatpants and then just this beautiful either
You
shirt,
look very
vest, whatever.
presentable, right? Look presentable.
You do. Well, I'm going to kick it off. I know today we have a topic that is near and dear to your heart, and I think hopefully some of our listeners will get some good insights and good information on associations. So, with that, I'm going to kick it off to you, and then we'll go from there.
Outstanding. Yeah. So odds are good, especially if you bought a home in a subdivision recently, that your home is part of some type of association. There's a variety of associations out there. There's homeowners association, town homeowners association, condo associations, community associations, and I'm sure everything in between. But you really have to be mindful when buying or selling within these associations what exactly you're getting. A lot of these associations have monthly, semi-annual, quarterly assessments. Let's take a couple variations of it because associations perform different duties. In a condo association, it's very likely that you're incurring monthly assessments, and what those tend to go for is overall building upkeep. This includes windows on the building, balconies, um, overall building mechanicals, perhaps the presence of a doorman, and it might also include cable or gas or electric or water as well in a condo association. Then you have at the other end something like a homeowners association, which may incur also a monthly fee, but may be a little bit more limited. You have certain associations which will cut the grass, maintain the grounds, repair the roads. And then you have more mature associations, which may only be, let's say, $100 a year. And basically all they maintain is the sign at the entrance to your former glorious subdivision. But you have to be kind of on the lookout when you're buying these homes, because you always want to be paying attention to what could be potentially a special assessment. This is very much true in condo associations. And you'll have to go through the minutes of the association to look at what's coming down the pipeline, because you never want to buy into an association saying, yeah, my assessment's only $300 a month, I'm good to go, and then find out they're actually putting a $20,000 special to repair a balcony. Next thing you know, every month you're paying an extra $1,000 a month. Those costs add up.
And if I can just interject real quick, just a question on that. So, most of the time, not most of the time, all the time, the monthly fees are disclosed, so you know that. But to your point, you really got to go back and understand what has been the conversations and all of that. What do you recommend as the attorney representing buyers? What do you recommend? Is it 3 months of notes, 6 months of notes, like
2 years?
2 years.
Usually the standard is 2 years, because what happens is, let's say you are a condo association or association is undergoing some type of massive overhaul, whether it be elevators or balconies. I'm using balconies because I have a previous horror story about a balcony. But you could go through the last 2 years of minutes, and if they're continuing to talk about stuff, you're like, it might not have been imposed or levied yet, but it's potentially coming down the pipeline, and you don't want to get caught off guard. So 2 years is usually about the sweet spot. There's no way to guarantee that you won't get hit with a special, because emergencies also do happen with these associations. Just be mindful. Also, if you're going to purchase a house or a property in an association, and you see that your monthly assessments might go up, and this is could be detrimental to you buying the house, that might not be the house for you. Because assessments will always go up. Usually not on like a homeowners association where it's $500 a year, because that's a fairly uninvolved association. But when you are paying those monthly fees, I would, year over year, I would expect about a 10% increase on those assessments every year.
Yeah, that's been my experience too, my personal experience anyway with assessments. I think 10% is about right. I guess one question that I have for you: what do you do in situations where, and we've all been in these situations, when the association has the notes aren't that great? It was just, it's a couple sentences, so and so was present. What do you do in those situations, or what do you advise rather?
Usually when you're in situations like a condo association, they're going to be a little bit more structured, hopefully. But yeah, that is a risk that you're inhering. The best you could do is obtain something from the seller verifying that to the best of their knowledge, there is no special assessment. But when the minutes aren't very good, you're never going to be 100% protected. And you are going into that situation with a level of uncertainty. And it's just a matter of you want to take those risks on yourself. If you're in a smaller association, like a 4-unit building, 5-unit building, you could usually ask one of the owners directly, because odds are good that someone is participating, or that unit owner has knowledge, like, yeah, we talked about this, but when you start getting into your larger 100 and 200 units, they usually do have very good notes or minutes. If they don't, that's a risk you have to make a determination, because there are going to be no guarantees on that, unfortunately.
No, and I've seen situations with good notes and bad notes, and you've obviously encountered it.
Meeting started, meeting ended.
Yeah, that's
really informative.
Exactly. And so it's hard to, kind of ascertain or surmise like what is going to come down, if anything. I guess one question I have, though, then, regardless of whether you have, good records and documentation and everything, ducks are in a row, as they say, are there any strategies or tactics or recommendations that you can use to de-risk going into? Because to your point, some of these special assessments are not insignificant. I mean, they could be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Or there could be, something that comes up in terms of a larger increase. I know personally, I've been part of larger increases where it was maybe a 25 or 30% increase in the monthly fee. So is there anything that you recommend where you can maybe not completely eliminate your risk, but maybe, alleviate some of it or de-risk the situation?
Yeah, usually during attorney review or during the review of the documentation, you can request a certain holdback for a certain amount of time. I would not ask for anything more than 6 months, realistically, because no seller would probably want to give that. You can't ask for a holdback. You could say, what, I've read the minutes, they haven't levied anything, but they're contemplating potentially, let's just say, a balcony again. That could be a substantial thing. Would the seller mind holding back some amount of funds until it's determined how much is going to, come down the pipeline? That could eliminate some of the risk, minimize the risk, let's put it that way. But you're never going to fully get rid of it. It's just something you kind of have to be aware of. And I say this just based on the horror stories I have with condo associations and associations in general. So just it's you have to be aware of it as a buyer, and even as a seller. When you're going to get rid of something, you don't want to get caught in the situation later on after you sold the home of a buyer coming back and looking for more money.
No. Yeah. I mean, in that review, what is your typical process? So I would presume, and what I would tell clients is, hey, these documents, obviously your attorney is going to review them or should review them, but you should also review them too. Take the time.
Absolutely. In those, I mean, some associations, they could have declarations and stuff that are hundreds of pages long. The attorney will review them, but you really can't fully rely on the attorney to fully review that. If it was the expectation of the attorney to review hundreds of pages of declarations, they'll review the minutes and stuff, but realistically, the attorneys aren't looking at the budgets, aren't looking at the declarations, aren't looking at the rules and regulations. If you're looking for something specific, you should be your own best advocate. You really can't expect an attorney to review hundreds of pages of declarations without incurring a substantial fee. You're foolish to do something like that.
Yeah.
And frankly, you shouldn't be buying in a homeowners association if you expect that, because things will be put in there. Also, if you're trying to rent a unit in a condo association, really make sure that, that's something you have to do up front. Find out if units are rentable. Find out if there's a cap on rentals. You just have to be very aware. Associations are good in theory. Often in practice, they fail miserably.
Well, on that note, let's say, for those listening that may be considering investment property, what have you encountered with, whether it's, you want to buy a unit and then rent it on your own, or maybe use it as Airbnb? What have you encountered in that space?
Right. A lot of times I'm seeing the associations limiting Airbnb rentals, specifically having meetings and placing in new rules and regulations to limit Airbnb rentals. I do see a lot of places where the building must be at least 50% owner occupied. The remaining 50% can be rented. And if you do want to rent your unit, you usually need approval from the board. And then there's possibly a wait list. So, if they already hit that rental cap of 50%, you have to get on a list to rent your unit. So be very mindful of that. And I've actually seen it going into townhome associations now as well. Not so much in a homeowners association, but townhome associations. I am starting to see that because people in these associations, they want owner occupied. They want to know that someone is taking care of the property. They're less worried about a long-term rental, but they're definitely steering away from the Airbnbs.
Yeah, and I mean, I can understand that. People.
I get it. It's a new person every day. You don't want to see.
I think I think the takeaway is for people listening is, whether you're looking to buy a place to, stay put for 10, 15, 20 years, whether you're buying a place to look to rent it, whether it's, to, the open market or to Airbnb. I think the takeaway is there is a lot of complexity that is overlaid with HOA bylaws and rules and regulations, and it would absolutely behoove you to really dig deep into those and figure out how this could potentially impact, my personal situation.
It's basically the only form of an association is basically the only form of government that does not appear on your tax bill. Essentially, people are asking about the school district, the local town, how things are done, but as a joke, kind of, it's the lowest form of government is the association. I'm not saying that in a demeaning way. I'm saying like it's the bottom rung almost, because you're in it every day, in the association every day. So just be mindful of it because there are pitfalls. And also, here's another fun topic. When there's two associations on a property, you'll have a master association and then the subordinate associations, which means you're paying two assessments. Be very mindful of that. We've been in situations where we're moving along with the association, getting all of our necessary documentation, and then somehow when the transaction is about to close, we hear about a second association, and it might not show up on your title commitment. The seller might have just legitimately forgot about it, just assuming, it's all one association, but there'd be two associations. And usually that's like a community association where they manage the, I don't know, tennis courts or the pool or something. But just be mindful of that. So many people, it falls through the cracks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and if you're the seller too, I mean, from your perspective, you might just pay one payment. It might be on auto pay. You might have been doing it for 10 years.
You're just not paying attention. You're like, whatever, it's good.
Yeah. I think in those situations, and I think what compounds this too is all of this is happening very quickly, right? It's not like you have 2, 3, 4 weeks to really, all right, let's take our time. Let's take a few days. We'll go through things. I mean, you're doing attorney review, there's inspections, there's back and forth. I mean, there's a lot going on in a very short period of time. And, to your earlier point, your attorney is not just, unless it's like a good family friend and they're just devoting all their time to this. I mean, they have other clients as well.
Right.
I think, I think what I've witnessed is, having really good attorneys that are involved, and then having the individual buyer, or if it's on a sell side, asking a lot of questions, leveraging the expertise of the real estate agent, and being their own best advocate, right? And those are the transactions that tend to go, the smoothest, if you will.
Yeah, because I mean, one of the biggest concerns for an attorney on any association is always the special assessments. That's always a big concern because you never want the client to be blindsided. We're less concerned about whether or not an association limits the type of colors that could be used to paint the doors.
Yeah.
That's something, because that's like, it is what it is. As an attorney,
Well,
at least for me, I don't care about that. I want to make sure the client doesn't get hit in the pocketbook with a special assessment.
but I think that brings up an interesting point, though, and I think something that oftentimes buyers don't think about. Because when you're in the middle of that transaction, everything is based on the dollars and the cents, and again, like you're moving
Right.
very quickly. You want the documents, you want to review them, but I do think like it is important. Like I remember, there could be restrictions on pets, right? Specific breed
Right.
restrictions on.
You don't see that so often in like a homeowners association, but definitely in a condo association. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like
30 pounds, 20 pounds, the dog. Yeah.
and those little things, I mean, that pets are a big thing. I
Right.
two dogs myself, but like even the colors, right? Even restricting colors. You see the Hollywood dramatized version of the guy puts up a flag and they have to take it down, or
Right.
whatever it may be. The grass is like a quarter of an inch too tall.
Yeah.
But I do think, going back to it, it's, you're looking at it from the attorney's perspective on the dollars and the cents and protecting from there. But as the buyer, you should be looking and saying, hey, if I want to make this home mine, what potential issues are going to arise, and then talk through them, because some of it may be a deal breaker.
Right. And I always make the joke with every client, become president of the association. If you want real change well, actually, that's my answer to minimizing risk. Become the president of the association, and then you can really set the goals, because it really depends on your neighbors and how involved they are. Like you said, the Hollywood dramatized version of having the neighbor who is measuring the grass to see how well it's cut. I mean, that'd be awful. So it's really like, how are your neighbors too? If you're living next door to the association president.
Wasn't that what was it, the Burbs? Was it Dan Aykroyd that was like the association, or the nosy kind of association neighbor? I know the Burbs wasn't about an association, but
it wasn't about the association. No, that was Tom Hanks in that. Dan Aykroyd wasn't in that.
No, I know, but there was a neighbor. I feel like I can't remember what movie. It probably wasn't the Burbs, but it was a movie with Dan Aykroyd as a neighbor. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
Yeah,
I think so. To close it out, it sounds like, again, really great takeaways on being your own best advocate, really taking the time to understand and read through all of the documents, and not just from the lens of special assessments, but how restrictions can impact your day-to-day when you move in, what you're limited to, what's restricted, et cetera, et cetera.
right.
And I think
They can even impose a restriction upon you selling the unit.
Yeah,
the right of first refusal, that they have the ability to purchase it back. So just be mindful of these things, because it's almost like a zoning law. Any limitation on the free use of and enjoyment of your own property, you just want to be cognizant of it.
And that's why at the ARG team, we work with very experienced, very competent, very detail-oriented attorneys, right? And making sure that you look at all those angles. So with that note, Len, as always, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy, but thank you for the 20 minutes, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for having me on again.
Thanks, Len. Take care. Bye.